Hi, welcome back. It's Laura at Hypeprstamper. I'm really excited to show you today's antique junk journal. This is made from a 1920s book, The Way of Poetry, and it's a beautiful, I wish the camera would pick up the proper color, but it's this really deep teal. And then I found this postcard in my collection, and way down here in the corner you can see the date on that is 1910, and it's dry embossed, and it's got these beautiful lifted flowers with this pretty Victorian woman here by the sea, some feathers here. It's just so lovely, and even the marbling pattern up here, it's stunning. And I've taken these little bits of fabric that I pulled from broken antique books, and because they matched the colors of the flowers and leaves there, got some vintage lace down here, crochet, and I've strung a whole whack of vintage beads to make this pretty little bangle. And I stuffed it, overstuffed it. Almost every single page has some kind of insert or surprise, and it's all authentic antique and vintage papers and ephemera. No commercial products in here. So before I go and put it in my Etsy shop, hypeprstamper.etsy.com, I want to take you on a little tour. The original first page is here, and this is the original first plate, and I love it. It's the spirit of poetry here. Look at this beautiful woman here. And then the original first page, lots of journaling space here. I just made this little flower out of vintage pattern paper. And I really like this. This is from the 50s here, from a music magazine that teens would have most likely bought. But really, really cool articles and songs, the words to songs there. And then that's from the early 1900s. There's llamas and condors. And this is a vintage page from a book on antiques. And that there is an antique book or music sheet that I add pockets to. This is wonderful. This is from a botanicals book, black and white, but in a really beautiful natural sepia tone on that. And then here is a 1903 plate from the Beatrix Potter collection. And a little image there from the 20s, and this is from a vintage bird book, kind of cool. Another 1930s children's book here, and that is from the 1955 Betty Crocker cookbook. That is the eggs and cheese tab. It's so fun. Really great antique paper here, naturally stained. There's London Bridge there, Tower Bridge, and that is from the 1930s, I believe, or 40s. Beautiful little plate here. Look at this, a little prattler among men. This is a gorgeous plate from the early 1900s, just stunning. And then I made this pocket here with this antique bird page, and this is from an antique French dictionary. And look how cool this is, one of the only color plates in it. So this is that's French for homes and different homes of the world. And look on the other side how cool this is. Oh my Lord, I love it so much. So skeleton muscles and circulation, blood circulation. So neato pepito. Oh my gosh, so cool. So that's a real treasure. I've been holding on to that piece. I was going to put it into a French journal, but I just really, really wanted it to be in here. Don't ask me why, it just spoke to me today. And I made this journaling tag out of early 1900s botanical page, and this is from the New York World's Fair newspaper from, I want to say the 30s, from the 30s. And there's a another children's book pocket. This is really cool. This is from an antique binding that I got, package of binding, and that's the original pin in there that held the binding together, and the original stamp there that says 100 yards. That was the cutoff point, so they pinned it together. I love that, so I left it intact. And in this pocket here of this antique paper, I put another one of my 1950s baby cards. And again, you can journal inside here, but look how sweet and precious that is. I love the images from the 50s. This here came from the inside of a book when I pulled the pages out. They often just use scrap paper inside to line the interior spine. And I just thought it was so beautiful, so I kept it. It's from the 1800s. 1950s doily making book page, and a 1950s original bingo card that you can have fun with and journal on. And then this is just a sweet little page from a 1930s children's book. I did not cover it up because I just loved all the little images and words there. And this pocket is from the 30s here that I've made with the goat on it. This is a 1970s book. Craft book for women. Really cool. I love the discoloration. The cheaper the paper, the darker it discolors. Isn't that neat? I know it sounds funny, but a really, really good quality paper often would not, like this one, not discolor as much. And it depended on how much acid too was in the paper. It's really interesting. This is from a 1905 book, and this is from the early 1900s edition of The Secret Garden. So I turned that into a pocket as well. Here's just a 1936 page, front page of a book, a little inscription there from Mother and Dad. This is a great 1920s map of Asia and Europe. Just beautiful. And then there's some more of that 1970s page, 1950s. This is fun here. This is that 1947 book on fashions throughout the ages that I've been really enjoying. Made this pocket out of a 1950s stamp collector book page. And this is from 1965, the date down here. That is a payday card. And this is a little bank note from the 30s. And then this is a little sweet little piece here. It's about 100 years old. And those are little fasteners. Size 0. Yeah. Never. Never happening. And this is from the 1890s. And that is a watch guard's dial, and that would have gone in almost like a watch kind of thing, and that tracked their hours that they worked and or slept. Vintage here. This is from the 1920s, and it's a hand-rolled wallpaper border. It's got the gold gilding on the top and bottom. It's really sweet, and I know exactly how they made this, and it's a really, really cool process. I'm a geek. I hear those words come out of my mouth. I just think, oh, you know too much about old stuff. This is a cool page from an antique book on how to write letters for business. And there's a ledger page, vintage dictionary page with a fun cluster. Little booklet here made out of botanical vintage book pages. And a 1950s, more pearl shop receipt there. 1940s children's book page here. And this is a wonderful plate from Birds of America, I believe. Yeah, Birds of America. And that is from the 20s. Canada geese. And this is a beautiful plate from a vintage book on trees. And then I put some antique paper under there to journal on. And then we have this sweet, sweet little early 1900s children's book page here. And antique paper on the back as well. And I love this. This paper here is from the 1850s. And it's a really, really thick, good paper. I couldn't believe it did not fall apart when I folded it, which is rare for that old of a paper. And then I've got the interior spine here, which I love. Some beautiful vintage crochet here. This is from the 1920s, a song called Marching Orders. And there is a hand-typed research paper, and it's dated 1886. And then this is a vintage recipe from that Betty Crocker cookbook again, which is really cool. And I urge anybody who buys this journal or any of the journals that I have with recipes in them to try the recipes. I believe they would hold true. Here's some pressed flowers that I pressed and just put on top of a vintage wildflower page. More ledger sheets. This is a beautiful vintage doily here with a swan on it appliqued. And then the crochet around the edge. There's an embroidery page from Mary Thomas's embroidery book from the 50s, 1950s. American road map page here. And this is another one of those wonderful pieces from the New York World Fair from the 30s. I just love it, so I glued that down there. That's a 1930s page there. Whoop. And then some spots here and an antique stamp up here, which is beautiful, 1904 plate from the English Countryside series. And here's another 1927 piece from my Bookhouse series. And another little vintage tree page down here. More vintage maps. And this is just a tapestry page that I absolutely love. So I hope you love it as much as I loved making it. and come back soon. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye for now.